sometime in June 2020. The petition did make mention of your name, so that we deem it necessary to call you so that we can also hear your version of the whole issue. Because it's important actually, if an engagement mentioned in particular allegation, it's important to give the individual the benefit of the doubt. So if we relate on that was how the issue of some contracts for the construction of 5 eco-lodges within the country. And I said the petition did make mention of your name. But before we proceed, just to remind you, this is one of the committees of the National Assembly. And all committees of National Assembly derive their powers from the 1997 Constitution and the standing orders of the National Assembly. And just take you straight to section 109 of the 1997 Constitution, which establishes committees of the National Assembly. But with particular references to section 109, subsection 2A, B, and I quote. Committees may be appointed, A, to investigate or inquire into the activities of administration of ministries or departments of government. And such investigation or inquiry may extend to making proposals for legislation. Or B, to investigate any matter of public importance. Subsection 3, for the purpose of effectively performing its functions, each of the committees shall have all the powers, rights, and privileges as are invested in the High Court at a trial in respect of A, enforcing the attendance of witnesses and examining them on oath, affirmation, or otherwise. B, compelling the production of documents, and C, the issue of a commission or request to examine witness abroad. That takes me further to section 110 of the same Constitution, that's 1997 Constitution, and I quote, any act or omission which obstructs or impedes the National Assembly in the performance of its functions, or which obstructs or impedes any member or officer of the National Assembly in the discharge of his or her duties, or affronts the dignity of the National Assembly, shall be contempt of the National Assembly. And in addition to any liability in respect thereof under the criminal law, the offenders shall be liable to reprimand or admonition by the National Assembly, and if the offender is a member of the National Assembly, suspension or expulsion from the National Assembly. So that goes to say actually the powers that are given to the committee in the discharge of their functions, and also the need for the witnesses actually to speak. So before we propose, we allow the clerk of the committee to administer the words of affirmation. Although we don't have a Quran here, so that we have preferred, or the choice is yours, either to go for an oath by holding the Quran. But in the absence of that, we will prefer you to affirm, and the clerk of the committee would administer those words of affirmation.
I, Abdullah Tambedu,
do affirm that I will speak the truth
I will speak the truth
to this committee,
the
whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Well, thank you very much. You may take a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for witness. Certainly, what we will do as a matter of procedure, we would like to ask certain questions. So just feel free to respond to questions asked to the best of your ability. And should we request certain documents that you are not in a position to produce, you can just take your time and tell us a time that is convenient for you to produce those documents. Our role as a committee is to establish the facts. After having done that, we will write a report, we will include our recommendations, and we'll present that report to the plenary, that's to the entire National Assembly in a sitting. So it's up to the plenary to approve the report or otherwise. So that's in short, our job is to find the fact, and we are not fault finders, but we are fact finders, and we report. Basically, that's our job. So we just want all of you to be calm and relax and respond to questions as we ask them. Thank you very much. And that takes us to the fourth question, and we'll be very happy if you can introduce yourself to this committee, sir.
Good morning, Honorable Chairman and members of the Standing Committee on Public Petitions. I am glad to be here today as a witness on your investigations. My name is Ambedo. I am the Managing Director of the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. I was appointed MD of the Social Security since April 2020 to date. Before then, I was the Director General of the Gambia Public Procurement Authority. That was between August 2018 to April 2020. And before then, I was the Managing Director of the Gambia Ports Authority from March 2017 to my redeployment to the GPPA in August 2018. And before my reinstatement at the ports, I was the MD of the ports in the former regime from April 2011 to August 2012 for about 16 months. And between August 2012, when I was dismissed from the ports, I worked for various institutions, finally working for the United Nations Development Program as their financial analyst at the Banjul country office. By training, I'm a chartered accountant by profession. I was born on the 6th of August 1967 at the village of Bijilo. Now we are no more a village, of course. We have grown into a town now. But basically, honorable members, that is Abdullah Tambedo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tambedo. You've informed the committee, or you told the committee one point that you were MD for the GPPA. And if I get correct, it was August, from August 2018
to April 2020.
2020 as MD of the GPPA.
Director General.
Director General, DG, to be specific. That. Would you like to tell us, under that portfolio as the Director General then of GPPA, the overall functions mandate as a DG, or in general, the overall functions of the GPPA? Probably maybe it will be too long, but we kind of just try to sum it up. Overall functions of the GPPA. Yep.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Gambia Public Procurement Authority's functions to regulate the public procurement environment of the Gambia government. What that entails is that we regulate all use of public funds. What are public funds? Public funds are all revenues, monies that pass through the consolidated revenue fund, and all loans and grants received for and on behalf of the government of the Gambia. So the functions of the GPPA is to regulate all institutions, the procurement of all institutions who by one way or another utilize those funds through the Consolidated Revenue Fund, grants and loans. Now, the daily functions, overall, we assist government in the development of policies. The policies are developed at the level of central government. The Gambia Public Procurement Authority is under the Ministry of Finance. So as part of the management of the public finance portfolio of the government of the Gambia, the Gambia Public Procurement Authority was initially enacted. The act was initially established in 2001, and then then you had the 2003 regulations. Then there was an enactment of the 2014 Act, and then the 2015 regulations followed. That was, by the time I left, there was a bill called the 2020 bill, which was not yet promulgated into an act, and there was the GPPA regulations 2019. The act required the authority to ensure that there is a transparent public procurement process. A transparent process, what that means is the Public Procurement Authority would require all agencies, all ministries, departments, and agencies that utilize these three funds that I earlier mentioned, Consolidated Revenue Fund, grants and loans, to ensure their procurement process is transparent and there is enough competition. How does the Act ensure that? We developed regulations which require public enterprises, SOEs, other government agencies that utilize government funds to ensure that they, for example, advertise. The regulations require limits, or they call it threshold. The threshold says that at X amount you have to do this kind of tender. There are the Act mentions various types of procurements, and we regulate that. The different type of procurements are request for quotation, single source, open tender, restricted tender. The Act provides when you are supposed to apply those. I can go into details if you want, but I will just go and give an overview. When you are supposed to apply those, there are the type of procurements and limits where you apply the specific procurement regulations, procurement types. Those are the types. So now, and the Act also requires that before you do anything, you prepare your tender documents, for example, and you send it to the GPPA. GPPA will review it, give you approval for you to go to tender. When you do your tender, you send us the evaluation report with all the forms required, the bid opening forms, etc., etc. Then we review the evaluation, and then give approval for you to award. What we look for when reviewing the evaluation is that we check whether the tender document that was sent to the bidders is the same as the one that we approved as the GPPA. And then we look at the tender document would have mentioned the evaluation criteria in that award. And that evaluation criteria, you have to develop it before you go to tender. Development of the evaluation criteria before you go to tender would ensure that all the bidders are given a fair chance of providing the service, goods, services, and consultancy. Those are the type of items that we buy. You either buy goods, works, or services. So now, once we approve, you then award. However, as I said, depending on the limits, there are some contracts that you do not need to go to GPPA approval at all. And the threshold are mentioned in the regulations. Now, the other thing that the GPPA also does is that periodically we train procurement officers, permanent secretaries, managing directors, up to National Assembly members even, for better appreciate the functions of the authority and also appreciate how they can also participate in understanding the regulatory environment as far as a transparent public procurement process is concerned. So overall, that is what we do. We also advise government in the need to revise regulations. For example, if, let's say, with this COVID-19, because of the emergency issues here and there were regulatory changes that would have helped public procurement agencies not to fall foul of the law because there's an emergency, so you do some things which is outside of the scope of the act. So in those type of environments also, it is the responsibility of the GPPA to advise government of the need to do some changes here and there in the act. And we saw it with other agencies, not only the GPPA, but that applies across agencies. In summary, that's an overview of the functions of the Gambia Public Procurement Authority.
Thank you very much. But would this also include would this also your funds also include the advising of institutions that tender for a project in terms of when some irregularities are seen or issues are being factored in the tender, which in the opinion of the GPPA would not be in the best interest of the nation, or there are some wrongdoings. Does that include part of your functions to advise and ask them to make sure actually they follow the rule? And in the event they fail to do that, do you have any penalties actually?
Yes, the act requires that the cooperation, the GPPA authority is proactive in its regulatory functions. What that entails is, as the Gambia Public Procurement Authority, we should be reviewing tenders. For example, if you see tenders in the newspapers, which you think is not, it would limit competition, it is the responsibility of the Gambia Public Procurement Authority to point it out to the institution that placed the tender. If the National Assembly made a tender in the newspapers for procurement of vehicles and then mentioned a particular mark, what that means is you are targeting to deal with a particular supplier of vehicle, which the procurement regulations will not allow. So it's the responsibility of the GPPA to inform that procuring organization, in this case the National Assembly or NAWEC. If NAWEC wanted to buy, let's say, heavy duty fuel and requested for mark of a particular product, it is the responsibility of the GPPA to write to them and stop them from doing that. The law over the years have not been the sanctions were missing, and so the GPPA had limitation for the enforcement of sanctions. I think that was one of the recommendations that came in the bill that I mentioned, the 2020 bill, because there were enforcement challenges as far as the Gambia Public Procurement Authority's powers are concerned. So that has been an issue over the years, and we hope that it would have been resolved in the bill of 2020. With the draft that I worked on, it really captured that.
Thank you very much. Supplement.
If I hear you well, I would say that the whole objective of the GPPA is to ensure value for money for the taxpayer. That will be the main objective. Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay. Yes. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. You've outlined various responsibilities of the authority, ranging from the regulation of public procurement and loans, grants, and assisting government in developing policies. I would just want to ask a specific question. Does the authority have anything, or was the authority aware of any contract being awarded to Lair Construction Company by the GT board? Was the authority aware of any contract being awarded to Lair Company by the GT board for the construction of ecologies?
Thank you very much. The GPPA, Gambia Public Procurement Authority, was aware of the process of the awarding of the contract. Yes, the Gambia Public Procurement Authority was aware of the process of the procurement of the works. That's correct.
Just to expand that question, does the authority have anything to do? If yes, what role does the authority play in that particular process?
Okay. Remember, I told you that I left in April 2020, but I will explain the process that I witnessed before I left. The Gambia Tourism Board wrote to the Gambia Public Procurement Authority for the procurement of the ecologies. I forgot the number. I believe it was 5 or 6. 5 across the length and breadth of the country. The tender was floated in the newspapers, I recall, and then an evaluation report. Companies sent in their bids, and an evaluation report was sent to the Gambia Public Procurement Authority for approval. We looked at the report and we saw some deficiencies in the process. I do not have the file here, but however, I know that the number one deficiency was that they did not provide us evidence that they used an civil engineering firm in the design of their requirements and also to assist them in the evaluation of the report. So that was a main deficiency, and we requested that we rejected the recommendations and requested them to carry those. Those were, maybe there were 1 or 2 additional things, but the requirements of assisting with the development of the requirements and also ensuring that civil engineering supervision firm would be involved in the evaluation and the supervision. Okay, I forgot about that. The supervision of the works, actual supervision. Those were the issues that we raised, and we rejected the recommendation and requested them to resubmit. And then I remember they resubmitted. However, we also raised additional issue on the award figure, the recomputations of the award figure. And if the file was here, I would have been able to explain the rationale of the issues raised. But I know that we raised issue on the award figure and the process of specifying the requirements and involving a civil engineering firm, rather than an independent civil engineering firm, rather than them as the GT board doing the requirements, because they are not a civil engineering institution. When doing those big works, when you are buying a laptop, it's easy to just buy off the shelf. However, if you are doing civil engineering works, you would involve the specialists in the area. So that was why, and it was apparent in the evaluation that the requirements were not adequate for that. I remember those issues raised by the office. Yeah.
Supplement. Sister. What we have to remember, the room has been unfriendly all these days, so we need to talk loud. Yeah.
Thank you very much, MD. I just want to inquire, after you rejected, or after the GPPA rejected the first request that they made to the GPPA from the tourism board, when they resubmitted, how many other companies were identified to be awarded these eco-lodge contracts, if you could recall?
I would have preferred the file to be here. Definitely. I think they made a justification for award to this single contractor, civil engineering firm that Lair Group mentioned just now. But the terms and conditions of the final approval, I would have loved for the files to be here, to exactly give the appropriate response without any shadow of a doubt. However, the issues raised, definitely those ones I can remember offhand that these were the reasons for the initial rejection of the recommendations.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Tambedi, I know the file is not around, but we will remind you of at least what we have. That will help you. When you rejected their initial request, like you said, you asked them to involve civil engineer. In fact, I think you mentioned 2 engineers. And then the engineers did their work and came up with a suggested bid price of 12.55 million. You could remember that? You could not remember that?
I definitely do not remember the amount.
Okay. Yes. So before we go into all that, I would also want to know, as as director general, what is your specific role in this process of awarding contract? What is your specific role as managing director? You know, you have other staff, you have other members, but you have a specific role. What is that specific role?
Thank you very much, Honorable. My specific role is to sign off on the final draft letter before the junior staff or one of my lieutenants would sign the letter. It is not usual for the MD himself to sign the approval letter. However, the Director General, but during my time, what I used to do is when requests come, I would send it to the respective. There were two directors, stroke senior managers directly under me. All the requests would forward to them with some observations from me. Then they would also, they have their lieutenants, the compliance officers, who would review the files, and then they would also send it to those guys. The draft response, issues would be raised. The draft response would go from the junior officers to the director stroke the senior managers, and then once the senior managers review, they would to and fro them until the senior manager or the director is comfortable with the draft response, and then it would come to me as DG. I would also review the issues mentioned, whether it is completely complies with my expectation of what the response should have been, and then I would do corrections and send it back, and they would bring it back to me until there's something final. Then I would sign, say, please dispatch now, and I would sign that. Then that is what they would file in their file, and that where I sign please dispatch, they would print that out and sign that off. I, as the DG, would not normally sign those letters. I would only sign during my time when it is something politically sensitive, where the DG has to take responsibility for some major decisions which may lead to some discomfort at the level of government or at the level of a particular ministry, things like that. Those ones, you would normally want the DG to actually sign them, unless it adds weight to the letter because of the impact. However, a normal award letter would not be signed by the DG. During my time, I would not normally. I would initial the final draft that place, and that would be in their files.
And in your normal routine, you would have some officers, or some messengers that be dealing with the correspondence between about 6 beats or request beats from your office.
Sorry, I did not get it.
Do you have messengers, or is it your officers that will actually be going to, for example, to the GT board to either take correspondence to them or to receive correspondence to them from them?
No. Not the officers. It's the drivers.
The drivers.
Who take the letter.
Okay.
Yes, the drivers with the messenger. Yeah, the messenger, but no, not the officers.
Not the officers.
No.
Mr. Tambi,
Yes.
sorry, I would like to ask your permission about the exercise your supplementary.
Yeah, no,
All right. If I could understand what you just explained, you just give us the general law as what you do as DG then. But could you remember, if you can, would you like to tell us specifically with regards to this specific contracts, the awarding for the construction of 5 eco-lodges, what specific role, if your member can recall, did you play, or did you do exactly?
The role that I played.
Yes, as DG.
As DG.
With reference to this particular petition, I said the award of the 5 eco-lodges. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The exact role that I played was that it was me who minuted that the lack of a design or a civil engineering firm in the preparation of the requirements and the review of the evaluation report we should not give approval. That was my decision. Because I felt that the Gambia Tourism Board does not have the required competence to do that bit. If they do not have it, it's something that we expect it to be outsourced. The act actually give requirements for standardization of the requirements to ensure. Remember, I told you that the essence of Gambia Public Program Authority, the Honorable here said value for money. Value for money is important and should be the number one. However, if you have adequate competition, there would be value for money. So the value for money would be a byproduct. The essence should be, you should ensure that the specifications are done in such a way both Tom, Dick, and Harry can all participate in the process. And an additional requirement is also, I forgot to mention that, to give the bidders adequate time to participate. That is also the GPPA requirement. If you see a tender giving very, very short notice to participate, what that shows is that maybe party has been given advance information on this procurement. So if you allow that to proceed, then you are encouraging uncompetitive procurement process. So what the role that I played, apart from the routine oversight, the issue of requiring them to involve a civil engineering firm was my own request, because that is not part of something that you would require for. But I did it to ensure that there is value for money, and then the specifications could be done in such a way that we can have durable structures. Because you can award a $10 million contract against a $15 million contract. The $15 million would have given value for money if the job matches the specifications compared to the lower price of $10 million. So that was why I requested as DG for them to involve a competent civil engineering firm. And that civil engineering firm would also participate in the verification of the jobs. You do not stop only at the evaluation and recommendation, but you also participate in the supervision of the works and recommending for the payments or otherwise during the life of the construction. So that was my intervention, definitely. I requested for that.
In addition to that, Mr. would you like to inform? In addition to what you've just said, you've told this committee that normally you don't normally sign, normally it's done by the below manager, unless it's in cases that are very sensitive, that may put the government to discomfort a particular ministry. Would you like to tell this committee whether you are preview to the end product of the whole transaction with regards to this Eco 5 ecologies in terms of the award letter that was finally issued by the GT board? Were you preview to the award letter?
I would I think, Honorable Chair, if I see the award letter now, I would be able to tell you whether this was something that I signed off or not. As I sit here currently, I cannot remember the end product, whether before I left it was finally signed off, because that normally happens. Rejections would go up to 2-3 times before the final position is approved. Definitely. If I see the award letter now, I will be able to tell you whether this was something during my time.
Okay, let me just ask something.
Yeah.
MD, sir, we're also aware that there was a letter, we have it here, I believe, from the GPPA indicating that each of the 5 bidders should be awarded a contract. But at the end of the day, the whole contract was awarded to Lair Group. Were you aware of that, sir? You're not aware of that?
If I see the letter, then I will be able to see. To be frank, I know that they were making submissions for a single award. But if I left, if I remember rightly, on the 27th, 28th April to 2020, if the letter was on or before that date, I should have been aware. However, we all know that you can have some wrong elements in these institutions, but I don't think that could have happened, that they could release a letter that I did not approve. All the letters, the drafts should be in the office with my initial that please proceed with this. Definitely, sir. If it was on or before the 28th April 2020, then I should have initialed for that letter to be released. However, the splitting of the award, again, unless I see the letter, sir, I can't. I don't want to. Madam made me almost swear here, so I want to ensure that is observed.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, but Mr. Tambel,
Yeah.
you, when they first made their request, you suggested to them to involve engineering teams to help them to do evaluation. And those engineering teams actually did evaluation and come up with a price,
Yes.
which they feel
Recommended.
should be the threshold. I believe that is about 19 million for each lodge,
Okay.
for each lot. So, but we have other competitors
Okay.
that also come with 16 million or 12 million or something, etc., etc. They've not actually reached the 19 million. You are aware of that?
That, Honorable, that should have been captured in the evaluation report. And I have already explained here that the value for money does not mean that you would award to the lowest price. Yes. So that difference of 19 million with 16 or 15, the evaluation report and the review of the supervision engineer would have given some justification which the GPPA would have been satisfied before stating the position. Yes, so that should have been captured in the evaluation report. But it is possible, Honorable. Yes, it is possible, definitely.
Maybe you can just help me to remind me.
Yes, this is Honorable. this is what I was saying. You see, the second paragraph, first of all, from the first paragraph, you will note that we raised observations initially for them to come back. So maybe that letter, if you look at it, it will show you, I believe, this issue of the requirement to engage a supervision engineering firm. This was Mahfouz Engineering. Then two,
You will get all of them
in the here, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
go to the
First, okay,
You-
okay. 14 to 2018. Okay, after a careful study of your submission, the authority regrets to inform you that approval cannot be granted due to some incomplete documentation highlighted below. You are also advised to divide the construction of the 5 ecologies into lots and restrict each lot to only one contractor in order to enhance timely completion. You see, this was our recommendation.
Yeah.
Yes. Furthermore, you are also required to resubmit the following documents: bill of quantities and specifications from the consultant engineer, reconciling the bid opening date and the bid submission date, on the evaluation criteria, the acceptance payment terms needs to be clarified for bidders to understand the timing of those milestones. Okay, then the letter that when we gave approval, you see, once we recommended for it to be broken into lots and then to be given to different contractors. However, the evaluation report, the letters that came from them afterwards, plus the terms of engagement of the supervision consultants, that is not attached here, but that is where the recommendation came for the award to Lair at 19.4 for all the lodges. Yeah. You know, I also want to remind the Honorable Chairman and the members here, if you look at the Gambia Public Procurement Act, the responsibility of the process of the procurement is the responsibility of the procuring organization. That is, in this case, the GT board. The requirement of the Gambia Public Procurement Authority is to ensure there is competition, there is value for money, and then you carry out that function as much as possible. And that one, if they engage, we require them. This process started in December 2018, and the approval did not have until September 2019. 9 months. That shows the due diligence that the Gambia Public Procurement Authority has done in this.
The question I want to want you to clarify is that if the engineers make a recommendation of a threshold of 19 million, that's the recommendation of the engineers that you ask them to employ, which they deploy, and those people come with 19 million as the threshold, which is accepted by the GPPA, approved by the GPPA as the threshold. Yes. That's the highest.
Yes, yes.
But now the GT board decided to award this contract above
more than 19.
all the recommended threshold by the engineers as well as the GPPA, which is approved by the GPPA.
Without going back to GPPA.
Well, you should tell me whether they went to GPPA
No,
or...
they cannot. With this approval letter, and you see what we have also done in this. The second paragraph would help you.
Yes.
Like to answer your question.
Yes.
We said, please be informed that approval is granted for the award of contract to Lairs Group for the construction of 5 ecologies, 1 per region, at negotiated bid price of 19.4 only. You see the last line, inclusive of 10% contingency and 1% preliminaries per ecolot.
Exactly.
What that means is, this supervision engineer detailed review would have said at the beginning that 19.4 million is the maximum award.
Yeah.
And this 19.4 maybe is detailed line by line POQs would be 17.5, let's say, 7.5 million.
Yeah.
Then there is another 10% built in as contingency. In case they go, they should have needed to dig only 2 meters to put their pillars.
Yeah.
But instead, because of the structure of the ground, the geotechnical features of the ground, they now need to dig another 2 meters, making it 4 meters. That would mean additional concrete, additional steel, and additional cost of other things. And in that case, they can spend up to 10%. So that it should have been 17.5, but now for those changes, the GPPA has allowed 10% to be 19.4. However, they cannot award a butut on top of this without going to GPPA for approval. And during my time, I do not remember. Again, this is September 2019 to when I left in April 2020. But during my time, I cannot remember them submitting for a change in the price. No.
And you could not remember that they brought the final letter to you to say that this one we have awarded.
19.4
They have
or
awarded 22 million instead of 19 million. You could not remember that.
no, definitely no.
You could not remember asking any of your directors to note and file that particular letter.
The 22 million.
Yes.
No, that would have requested our GPPA approval. You cannot note and file that.
That's the information we got from one of the directors that you asked them to note it and file it. And they noted it and filed it. And that was the end of it.
From 19.4 to 22.
To 22 million.
No, note and file is not GPPA approval. Let me.
Yeah, would you go like if
That would be wrong.
provide you with that letter, with that evidence?
Please,
Would that be okay for you?
please, I would want to see that.
That's
So you can call him back.
Note and file is not an approval.
it's not approved.
No.
Go ahead.
It's just a short question. Mr. Tamil, who prepares the award letter? Is it the GPPA or the awarding institution?
No. The award letter?
Yes.
No, it's prepared by the procuring organization. In this case, the
GT board.
So you are not aware of any letter being sent to the GPPA, sent to GPP by GT board, indicating that that was the figure awarded to the contractor. You know aware of that?
No, I know that the public procurement practice encourages that the awards should even be put in the newspapers, and then the GPPA be informed, so that in our website there should be statistics of all the awards to improve transparency. And during my time, I started those graphs to be put on the GPPA website to give the annual procurement of government and the different percentages awarded, so that you will see single source 40%, restricted tender 30%, request for quotation 5%, consultancy X percentage, so that you will see in the different years. I remember, I think for 2016, 17, and 18, before I left, those were finalized, and it was uploaded on the GPPA website. That's the essence, so that we keep track of the percentages of improved transparency and competitiveness. But the note and file is not an approval, and that is that I would want to see that later.
The
Yeah.
publication of the award on
Yeah.
the newspapers,
Yes.
is it a good practice or is it a statutory requirement?
No, it's a statutory requirement. Actually, yes, in the regulations, yes, it is a statutory requirement. It is just that because we have not, we had so many urgent challenges, and that area is not enforced. But it's a regulatory requirement. It is.
Now that you cannot remember receiving this particular letter that carries the figure of 22 million,
Yeah. As opposed to 19.4.
as opposed to 90. But can you remember seeing the publication of this award on any of the newspapers, local newspapers?
No, definitely.
Honorable Jack.
I don't. Yes.
After the initial request from GT board, and then you wrote and advised them and give them a threshold, I just want to know whether they just go ahead above the ceiling and then they awarded the contract to lead group without the notice of the GPPA, or where?
No.
You are not aware?
No, I'm not aware. I explained here.
Yeah.
When they applied for the award, that was in 2018. We advised them that we will not approve, and we requested them to do certain things. One of them was to have an engineering firm to do those requirements, to improve on the competitiveness of the process. That was why, and also to make sure that there is value for money, and that helps in avoiding disputes in the delivery of contracts. If you do not have detailed designs and specifications, what would happen is there might be disputes where the requirements that the contractor thought that this was needed might be different from the requirements that the bidder thought is needed. So that is why the specifications would ensure that all of you are on the same page and you can monitor what is delivered to reduce any disputes in future. That is another reason for detailed requirements. So, Honorable, definitely I was not aware of an award more than the approval, because the GPPA should approve. The Act allows that there are possible that you go up to some stage and there are major changes. However, there is a process that you go through which the Act explains. But note and file is definitely not what you do. No, that's not approval. Definitely.
Mr. Tamir,
Yes.
you've informed us of there are certain projects that you would sign as a DG then, if they're deemed to be complex, of interest to a government or a particular ministry. And we also be informed by you that you have made certain observations to the GT board with regards to the division of these articles into lots for timely completion. However, at the end of the day, that was not adhered to. Would you regard this particular contract as one of those peculiar ones that the government has interest in, and where the Minister of Tourism did intervene by talking to you or engaging you indirectly?
Honorable Chairman, honorable members, I can definitely say that no minister ever called me on this. If it happened, I would have said, no minister called me on this. The process took almost 9 months before the GPPA gave conditional approval. And in those 9 months, we requested for this engineering supervision firm to be involved to ensure that the requirements are clearly specified and they have value for money in the delivery of the. That was why we were very particular. If you look at the wording, it says you award at 19.4 only, inclusive of 10% contingency and 1% preliminaries. All that was done just to make sure that everything is watertight to avoid abuse in the delivery. Normally you just say approval given for 19.4, full stop. But we even went only inclusive of.
Take care of all
yes, so that tomorrow some rogue people would not take advantage of any loopholes in the award letter. This was very clear, inclusive of 10% contingency and 1% preliminaries. Now that you mentioned the 22, I can explain, for example, what would have happened, what could have happened that would lead to an award increase of 19.4 to 22. A good example could have been if the government decided that, GT board decided that instead of 5 now, they want to do 6 lodges because they have identified somewhere in Kiangs or in the Fonyes where they, after their appraisal, they now feel that definitely it would be good for the tourists or to help in rural regeneration to build a 6th lodge in a particular place. Yeah. And if you do that, because of economies of scale and ensuring that it is easier supervision for the delivery, and the fact that the person who has been awarded 5 already would easily be easy for him to move from, let's say, one point of the bank to another side, another 5 kilometers or whatever, rather than engaging a new contractor to mobilize. A submission like that, I, as DG of the Gambia Public Procurement Authority, we would have ensured that the unit rates used in the bill of quantities for the 19.4 is equal to or less for the 6th. Yes. If that was proven, yes, then I would have given approval. I'm giving you an example where that could have happened.
Well, under these circumstances,
yes.
If it didn't happen.
No, that definitely, I would love to see this 22 million. How it is something like that. In that case, GPPA should have approved or should approve for the increase, because the cost of a new contractor to be given a new contract would be more. You see, that is the only justification that should be given. But
as far as you are concerned, your knowledge is concerned, you are not aware.
No, I'm not.
I'm
definitely not.
Yes, Mr. Tambe. I'm not so whether you are aware of that also, but one of the reasons we are informed that one of the reasons for awarding the Lair Group is because they were going to pre-finance the contract. Were you aware of that as one of the reasons?
That might have, in the evaluation criteria, I explained that the award, we review the bidding documents, and we also ensure that the evaluation award recommendation is as per the award criteria in the bidding documents. And pre-financing could have been an award criteria. So the bidding document would show that pre-financing was there, and then you had X contractor scored very high marks because he was supposed to pre-finance. So what that means now is the job of the supervision engineer should ensure that during the delivery, that pre-financing is how the job is implemented. Yes, that is why I again said that the supervision engineer should not only stop at the award recommendation, because he should also be involved in the supervision. That's why the third paragraph here said, the authority hereby enjoins you to use an engineering firm to carry out the design review and construction supervision of the ecologists in all regions, whose contracts shall be approved by the authority. So, and that means the contract of the supervision engineer should be approved by the authority.
Yeah, but for me, I'm a bit confused because I believe they have already deployed an engineer. The first engineer is the one who recommended 12.5 million.
Who?
The first engineer.
First engineer?
Yes.
Okay.
Gave a cost of $12.5 million, excluding VAT.
Okay.
Then you people ask them to engage two other engineers. That is Sheikh Mahfouz and the other one, I don't know. Sheikh Mahfouz and Fins Associates.
Okay.
So those two also got in, they both agreed.
At the 12.5?
They come to agree now that 19.4 or 19 million should be the threshold. And with that agreement, you people gave them, at least we gave an approval to that 19 million. But then all of a sudden, it turned out to be an award given to 22 million. And then you are not even aware of that 22 million.
No, definitely.
And then the information we have is that you ask them to note it and file it.
Well, they should have given you that.
Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get that. We'll get that.
I definitely.
So, and now the information we have is that it is supposed to be pre-financed. But after the award and the minister's declaration, 38.5 million was advanced to Lair Group to engage in construction. And also the lots, like the chairperson said, your recommendation is for them to divide this into 5 lots. But they did not do that as well. Decided to give all the 5 to one contractor, which is actually going to defeat the purpose, the reason for your suggestion. Because the reason for your suggestion is for timely completion. But now if it is all given to one company, it's likely to take longer period, which will defeat your purpose.
Yes. Just for, I think, to clarify,
yes,
that we raised that observation at the beginning,
okay,
in 2018.
Yes.
However, after they involved the consultant here, Mahfouz Engineering,
yes,
and then an evaluation, a review was done, yes, there was a justification made that it would be better for this, because our position would always depend on, reasonably depend on, if a consultant supervision engineer is brought in and his recommendations are far, he needs to justify to us. So that is why I think you should review the submission that they made, yes, to explain the justification for the 19.4 and for one firm, yeah, to deliver it. That report should help explain why this. That's why here it said that having incorporated the signed negotiation report and terms of engagement with the consultant Mahfouz Engineering, please inform that approval is granted for the award of XXX. So that report should show reason as to why the 5 lots were given to one contractor. Yeah. Yes. Because our initial recommendation was in December 2018. Yes. And also, you said about 38 million was paid So that also, you can look at our...
Maybe that's not on their purview, but that's...
No, it is. It is on our purview.
On their purview.
Yes. What you can do, you see, page, the 21st December 2018 letter, point 3.
Yeah.
We said evaluation criteria, the acceptance of payment terms, 20%, 40%, 35%, needs to be clarified for bidders to understand the timing of those milestones.
Yeah.
What that shows is that they were making reference to the achievement in the delivery of the construction to pay certain amounts.
Yeah.
So I think you should verify whether the 38 million that you mentioned, how does it match the requirements that GPPA approved? Yes. That also, but it is part of GPPA. GPPA mandates the payment terms to ensure that it is built in the bidding document. The reason for that is also, you cannot take advantage that you promise to pre-finance, you get the award, because you and party were competing.
Yes.
Party said, me, I cannot pre-finance.
Yes.
So you awarded to Demba. Demba signs, and then Demba says, well, I was expecting X, but it did not materialize. So now, please pay me. That cannot happen. Because if Demba was given the chance, Demba could have even done better than party then. So that is not something that you can do. So it is the GPPA's mandate also to ensure. And I think it should also explain that every year the GPPA does annual compliance reviews where our staff go to all these institutions. We do not do 100% institutions, but yearly we select a major institution depending on the expected value for money issues. And then we do a compliance review to see whether our approvals are implemented according to how it was recommended. Yes. So that is the essence of that exercise. So we do it every year, and then although it's not done across 100% of institutions, but we try to spread our wings as much as what our financial capability is at any point in time.
Also, what I want to affirm is the applying institution, for example, GT board. They have a contracts committee, and in the act, the finance director is not supposed to be part of the committee. Are you aware that the finance director was part of the contracts committee of the GT board when this process was taking place? Were you aware of that?
I'm sorry, Honorable, but the act does not say that the finance director should not be part of the SPU. It's called the SPU, the Special Procurement Unit, or the Contracts Committee.
Okay.
The Act does not say that.
It
So
does say that.
no. For us, what we ensure is that there are members nominated by the MD, approved by the MD or Director General as the Contracts Committee members. The regulations say a minimum of 3, I believe. Forgot the number. Minimum of 3 or 5.
Okay.
But however, it did not state that.
And that would include the director.
No, it would not state.
It would not state
The designation.
the positions.
Yes, it is the Director General's responsibility or the MD to ensure there is, what the Act says, if I remember right, is that there is a spread of specialities. For example, you should not form a contracts committee of only lawyers, for example, or only accountants, or only engineers. Yes, I think the Act says that there should be a reasonable spread of specialities, but not to say that no lawyer should be in the contracts committee or the Director of Finance should not be in the no.
That's just the information that we are
No. I have the copy of the act here.
Okay.
Yes, I can, and the regulations.
Okay. You can afford us.
Yes,
Just
by
electronic copy.
email. Okay, I can. I have it right in front of you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I've lost it. He has already asked his question.
Okay.
You want to ask
Some-
questions and maybe?
Yes.
I have the copy here. Who you want this sent to?
No, we have.
I think
We have.
You have the electronic one.
No.
I just-
No, he has the electronic one. You can,
Yeah, we can
send
share
it.
it. You can share it.
Okay.
We can share it.
Give Mr.
I just
Ba,
want
give your
to ask-
email to
Yeah,
him.
I'll get it. For the meantime, we can use this one.
Okay.
The composition of the contract committee.
Yeah.
So I wanted to
Yeah,
verify.
just go ahead.
Right.
You talked about the provision on the act, which does not deprive the director of finance being party to the contract committee. But for the purpose of, because you are the implementers, isn't it? For the purpose of good practice, and then looking at the conflict of interest in there, don't you think it would have been best to restrain some of these members forming part of the contract committee? What is your take on that?
I think, to be fair, I have been members of various contract committees in my years when I rose through the ranks at the Gambia Ports Authority. And as Director of Finance of the Gambia Ports Authority, for many years, I was the chairman of the contracts committee. To be frank, I have been the chairman of the contracts committee for many years. So what is good practice is not to involve the managing director in the day-to-day, because the recommendation of the contracts committee would now go to the managing director. However, or the director general. Yeah. However, the director of finance or any other director, it is normal practice that they are members of contracts committees.
But the staff will not be cannot be part of the committee.
The staff,
For example, a senior staff of the GT.
they are, like the director of finance is a senior staff.
It's a senior staff.
Yeah. So, and NAWEC, Gamtel, if you go there, I can tell you the ports, social security, where I am currently, you have the directors being members of contracts committees.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is Mr. Tamil, this is something that really creates a lot of reform at the GT board. Because the staff, senior staff of the GT board actually complain about this awarding, the method of awarding, the process that took place to award this to Lergo. And because of that, the director, who is Mr. Ture, I think it's Ablai Ture, was removed during the process. You are not aware of that?
Haidara, Abdullah Haidara.
Is it Hydra or Ture?
No, Haidara was the director general.
It was the director general. And not Ablai Ture.
No, Abdullah Ture was the chairman of the board.
Was the chairman? Is the chairman?
Yes.
The chairman was removed. Because the staff said after their complaint they went to see the chairman. And then because he is listening to them and want to consult and so that he can deal with their complaint, then he is removed. But apart from his removal, the senior staff were either removed or they were posted to the provinces, various places in the province where there is no tourism activity at all. That is one problem also. The third thing is they were also sent on leave. on a 50% of salary. So all these things took place because they are objecting to the process that is being taken by the GT board. But it appears you are not aware of all that.
No, I'm aware. I'm aware. What you say is in the newspapers. I'm aware. I'm aware that the chairman says, I'm aware that the provincial transfers, that's all. I'm not aware.
You are not aware?
No, definitely, to be frank. I've never had them, but the others, I'm aware.
So my question is, if because we have not established yet,
Yeah.
if, for example, this 22 million is awarded against your advice, without your consultation and approval, what role would you play now after you knew, or after you know that this is what has happened? Do you just file it and note it, or just forget it?
No. I think if it comes to the attention of the Gambia Public Procurement Authority,
Yes.
what should happen is a letter should be written to GT board to provide explanation as to why the GPPA Act provisions were flouted. Because it clearly states that it gives you mandate to what to award, and as per GPPA approval, and it tells you what to do if there are changes, as I explained. In that case, you should go back to GPPA with the justification for approval or disapproval. But you cannot award a 19.4 million from 19.4 to 22, whatever.
Let's say here there is no discrepancy and there is total compliance. What you recommended is what has been awarded, and then they sent you an award letter. Is it normal that you will just say notice and file?
Yes, if the copy of the award letter is sent out.
And there is compliance, 100% compliance. Will you just note and file?
Yes, because you file it in that file so that when they are going for review, as I said, they review whether what was approved, for example, the 19.4 did not change to 22, for example.
If it does not change, yes.
Yes. That is the essence of going for it, so that you file that in that same file to ensure during the review, you check the implementation and ensure that it was implemented according to GPPA approval. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
We will certainly put this document before you. That was noted and
File.
Because I'm of the view that perhaps you might thought that it was complied with what has been recommended, and then you just minuted note and file. Could that be the case?
Yes, I think what I would want to see. I would want to see because they cannot. Let me tell you why the note and file is important. The note and file, the reason, because even with the note and file, the Gambia Tourism Board cannot implement.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you need GPPA. It's like this thing. If we did not respond to this letter, and we minuted note and file, they cannot award for the 19.4, even.
Yeah.
So, even I would want to see that if the letter stated, please be informed that due to XYZ, we have increased the award from 19.4 to 22.5. That is not approval. That is not. So what the tourism board should do is to write to the DG, Gambia Public Procurement Authority, saying that after your approval, due to X, Y, and Z, attaching the justification of the supervision engineer, that they are requesting for approval to be increased from 19.4 to 22.5, let's say. And then the GPPA would not note and file, you mean it for the guys, the team as before, we review, do draft responses, come back, and then we respond to them. Accepted, approval given, no, you cannot increase to 22.5 because of A, B, C. However, if the note and file, like me as DG, maybe, or whoever meted that, could have assumed that it's the same 19.4. That is the only reason that you put note and file. In that case, they are not expecting a response from you. Yes. That is, however, if that was the case, if DG now, today, GPPA should now, if they wrote to DG GPPA, please be informed that as per your approval, we have awarded 22.5. This is for your information. And GPPA DG noted and filed. That's not approval. So they should have come back to GPPA and requested for the response to that letter. And the officials of GT board, the law is very clear. If I as DG Gambia Tourism Board recommends for a payment of an amount more than what GPPA has approved, you as my Director of Finance should not process. Yeah, the law is very clear on that. So
we were told,
yes.
in our last engagement with a member of GPPA, that you were, when you were DG, very conscious, cost conscious, very sympathetic to the taxpayer. You will even cut a butut wherever it's applicable.
I tried.
Yeah, exactly. He said that, a member said that. But he was also surprised in this case when he said, when you made note and file. And he took that to be a serious oversight, but you are not like that because you are very, very cost conscious, sympathetic to the taxpayer, and you will cut wherever. But in this case, someone who cuts a butut could not cut millions. Would you be surprised? If that's so, would you consider it as a serious oversight?
So, Chairman, that is more than a serious oversight. And I think what I would say is the person who received that note and file. You know, note and file is one of the, you do not actually write it. You take it. You take it because there are various action points. Like let us discuss. It's typed there. Let us discuss, reject, note and file, your attention. So you just take one. So what is possible is, but I made a very, very serious oversight then. If I take note and file and then sent it, and I think it's the responsibility. If DG says, takes note and file to you, and you are Director of Operations or Senior Manager Compliance, you should come back immediately to the DG. Please, number one, you should point to the DG whether if they are requesting, it's your responsibility as Director or Senior Manager to come back to the DG. Any Director or Senior Manager, what his or her sold, should not just file and say that DG is very, very conscious about issues, but this one, the family Lucineka. No. That should not happen.
Because with the assumption,
yes.
The assumption that you give us
Yes.
is that this is a directive from the DG. He is directed to note and file, and because it's a directive, he could not do anything about it but note and file. And for him, note and file simply means approval. It's like GT board should go ahead with what they have done.
Okay.
That's the impression that is given to us.
Let me explain why that is a wrong impression. Because with note and file,
Yes.
GT board does not still have any approval letter from the GPPA.
Yeah.
So how can they implement the 22.5?
I need to rectify that one.
That's,
The award letter.
yes.
that indicated that
22.5.
22 years.
I would
It indicated that. And when the action officer took that to the DG,
Yes.
DG said, no, that's fine, your service we are good to go with that. And he gave us the impression, hence you are the top man, that's nothing he can do.
no. I just hope somebody did not cook these note and file issues. I would want to see, because definitely, Chairman, I'm sure you see what I'm saying. The things do not add up. If you say, I cannot tell you, please note and file, because the GPPA, the Gambia Tourism Board, does not have an approval letter. If I was the boss, and I'm telling him I'm the boss, I would tell him, please give the approval for the 22.5. Isn't it?
Definitely.
That is what I would have told him, that please give approval for the 22.5. You will go through GPPA approval letters from 28 August 2018 to 27th April 2020. There is no single approval letter that has gone out without the draft being initialed. Draft, okay, please proceed by me. I want to give you that assurance. Between 28 August 2018 and 27th April 2020, there is no GPPA approval letter without the draft being in the office. Because that is what protects, for example, this Jamila. That is because that is what shows her that I have approved this letter.
Because you've signed the draft.
Yes.
So they can sign
This on my behalf now.
on your behalf now.
Yes.
When they have the draft. That was
Yes.
not clear before.
Yes, they have that. They should have that for all letters. For all letters.
So, Chair, just some gray areas. Assuming that GT board informs you through a letter that they have now approved this award to Lair Group
22.5
at 22.5 against your recommendation.
of 19.4.
What is the approval method? Do you call your other managers to a discussion and discuss over that, or do you just approve? You can do that approval by yourself.
No, I've never done it.
You could not.
They can look at those days,
Yeah.
and you go to GPPA, you will never see that being done. I will always send it to those next to me, and those next to me would also send it to those below them, for them to review, and then come back to me. With the explanation now being given, why I'm explaining to you, because maybe during the time if you review, I would not be there, but for you to satisfy yourself, what you now need to do is, if in all the letters, before you sign on my behalf, I will sign the draft, okay, please proceed. Why would you sign a 22.5 without that? If I say note and file, that's on all letters, August 2018 to April 2020, every letter I would say, and I would put their name there, Keba or Lamin or whatever, draft, okay, please proceed, and I sign it. So that you now print that and forward. So I could have done that for the 22.5. Because I need to review the draft for the 22.5 approval. So I would want to see what happened.
Another gray area.
Or even as supplementary before he comes here.
Yes.
You did state it here that note and file
Yes.
is not approved.
No.
Can you enlighten us?
Yes.
What do you mean by note and file? Once it is not approval, what does that mean?
Yes. Note and file means you are sent something for your information. For example, we approved 19.4, and then they can go and revisit the quantities and say, Now, because of our financial situation, definitely we just want to implement 4 instead of 5. Yeah. So now, they now write to GPPA that thank you for your approval. However, due to the financial situation, we want to award now 4 instead of 5. And they divide the 4 over 5 by the 19.4. Or 19.4 times 4. 19.4 times 4. Yeah. The 19.4 was per unit times 4. Exactly. And then say that please be informed that we have awarded 19.4 times 4. They multiply that and say that is what we have done, so that you note it and file it. And what that means is, once their finances improve, they can come and award for the final single. That is the essence of note and file. But the note and file is not approval. That's the difference. It's not approval. Okay. Note and file is note. This is for your information. Note and file, and maybe there is something else coming.
Yeah, the only question now I have is your relationship with an applicant, for example, GTPO. What would be your relationship with them? For example, if you discover that the GT board constitutes a committee, a contracts committee, that is not what they are sold or dissolved. What would you do under such circumstances? Because they are into something now, but you discover that they are incompetent to handle it.
No, you write to them, because you should, when reviewing, when they submit the composition of their contracts committee, they should state the designations of the officers and their qualifications. So when you see that and you think, no, this team cannot handle. That is what I looked at when I insisted that an engineering firm should be part of the, the GT board should have an engineering firm to help in the process. That is what you look at, because you know the competence of the team, internal team, the contracts committee, and you say, no, this team cannot do, not that they are poor in their qualification, but this is not their area. So that is, so the GPPA should now write to say that your team needs to be beefed up, and even if it was not for specialized delivery, like construction of ecologists, it could have been buying of vehicles, let's say. And then you look at the team and you see the contracts committee, is maybe they are very junior. You look at their qualifications, no, please reconstitute your contracts committee. Yes. So it's the GPPA's responsibility.
Retraining of those.
No, exactly. You recommend also. Because I did not mention training, but we do. No, I mentioned training. That we mentioned we train even up to ministers and National Assembly members. Yeah, we do. So we do those recommendations.
In this case, did you recommend training to them? And did you conduct training?
No.
Do you recall that?
No, I do not recall that. No.
We are informed by your staff that you recommended for training, or he recommended for training.
Okay.
And they actually conducted training for the team, the contracts committee, because of he feels that their competence is not up to standard.
Yeah. The training is normally routine, and I would leave it with the directors to handle. To be frank, but that was not part of this process.
Yeah. Okay.
It could have been a request from them to train their contracts committee members and management.
It's not in relation to
yes, but it's not definitely related to this job, this contract. Yes.
After what you just said, the evidence we have is that that training was particularly in relation to this particular.
According to Mr. Jallo.
According to Mr. Jallo. Yes, like he conducted
an audit and inspection, at the GT board, and then discovered that there were deficiencies, in handling of these contracts. So therefore, a training was, recommended, specifically on this particular, projects, if I could remember. I'm sure the former MD will be a bit confused about that, really. But that is the evidence we actually received, yeah.
Let me see the evidence.
Yeah.
I don't remember definitely any training.
No, we are told, but he said he himself did not attend. The training went ahead, but then he was not part of it.
He was not there.
Yeah, the training went ahead. Because it has observed some deficits, as I said, that's the committee, relative to recommend issues. So that's why they decided to recommend for training, which was implemented, but unfortunately himself was not there. Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair. Again, Mr. MD, sir. Now, as the former Director General of the GPPA, what is your overall assessment, in the awarding of this contract, its whole process? Are you satisfied or not?
Thank you very much. Compliment. To be frank, once they involved, we expected that it would be delivered according to expectation. That is the why in the second to last paragraph we say consulting firm to carry out the design and construction supervision of the ecologists in all the regions. Definitely, I have not visited the lodges to see whether the construction did go according to plan. However, if it was, number one, I'm only aware now that the figures were increased from 19.4 to 22.5. I am very, very, very surprised with that, and I am worried that maybe somebody within my team could have done some malpractice and then issue an approval letter without my approval, without my authority. I'm worried with because apparently that might have been what happened. But I will tell you, the lady made me make some assurance here, and I will repeat. Not a single minister called me on this, and then I was not under any pressure to approve or reject this. That is why it took from December 2018 to September 2019. My integrity would not be tainted by only a $19.4 million contract. I would not have allowed it then, and today I would not allow it. The increase from 19.4 to 22.2 should have been reviewed by my team, and I would just ask all the letters from August 2018 to April 2020. Everybody would tell you that DG would initiate the final draft. They would be going up and down because it's a story building. So they would say, MD, man DG, that man Egbers son. But that is the essence. It was something like this, so that nobody would issue an approval which did not have my mandate. I could have been reviewing and said, okay, Babukar, you can sign it. And then I will review Fatu's and say, Fatu, no, this one changed. But I was not doing that. I was reviewing and correcting, and initially, please redo. And then you will go and come back, do the corrections. This secretary is there, she can confirm that. My secretary, of the DG secretary, the final copy, cleaned copy, I would initial Babukar or Ibrahima, please proceed with this final draft, an initial and date. Yeah. So that is, I would be very, very surprised, and I would want you to urge you to look at how that happened for the increase from 19.4 to 22.4 by only note and file. that is wrong. If I did it, it's wrong, and I did not do it. That one I can assure you.
Is that a possibility, or from your experience during your tenure there in the position, how do you ever come across an incident of that nature, or that's one thing, or is that a possibility what we're talking about?
I'll tell you, Honorable, it's a possibility. If you look at, before I left office, if you people notice, there were boards across the road which said that GPPA approval is for free. Can you people remember that?
Signboard.
It's a signboard. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That you do not
Pay them to
pay for to get GPPA approval. It was because of those things that there were allegations. Occasionally, you would hear that your distaff would normally help in certain processes, rightly or wrongly, which may lead to award the decisions being taken. That those were occasional comments that you would hear. However, during my time, we have never had a single case of an award letter being written unapproved by the team. Yes, and it's not only, before we conclude, it's not only award letter actually, also the refusals. This one, you would have, this rejection, would have had my signature on it to show that reject because of this and this. It would have had it. They would, if you, I think you should get the full file from the beginning to the end. You will see my signature in either from my experience. That is why I would always review and sign on the actual letter. I do not sign on the, you know, this is the routine slip. That's the one. That's the one. Yes. You see, it has your attention for action, let us discuss, as discussed, prepare draft, as requested, note and file, for your information, and regret. Can Abdullah Tamiru receive a letter from MD, from this one is from the National Assembly, remove it, and clip it on a letter from GT board. And even that note and file, even if you, maybe you are just a criminal, you transfer it to the letter from GT board. But the DG's note and file, you should have ensured DG change the note and file. Because the note and file is not telling you to give approval from 19 to 22 million.
No, it's not.
It's not. So that is why I would want you to please look at that. Please, it's important. It is in my interest for that to be reviewed. And I would want to be called again and show the outcome of, now that I have provided guidance on where I could have gone wrong and where somebody else could have gone wrong. Please, I would appreciate if I am called before you conclude and show to me, and maybe I can help in. Yes. Please, I would want that, please.
Just the final, just to confirm whether your action officers would have any, whether there will be any official reason for them to frequent the applying institution. For example, GT board. You are in this process with GT board. Would your action officers have any reason to be frequenting visits to the GT board? Because we are looking at the ethical dimension. If you are the approving and you are actually directing them and observing them to ensure value for money, but then your staff are continually going to work with them internally. It will appear they are schooling them to, if they want to do something wrong, they could school them. So would there be any reason for any of your action officers to actually physically be going to GT board twice, 3 times, 4 times during this process?
Only during the compliance review.
Okay.
Which happens once a year for 1 week period, 1-2 weeks maximum.
Okay.
Apart from that, it should not happen. It should not happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Woodham. In the absence of any major questions, supplementary questions, it's been a long day. We have for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tambedu. It's been a long day. Perhaps before I began, we could have apologized to you. I think the prescribed time was 10 o'clock, but then you here will try to understate for half an hour. Same thing to our media. Because a good number of the committee members travel to get a quorum, so that resulted to the delay for comments on the meeting. But I would like to apologize. And I just want to thank you that for coming, also speaking your mind. As I said, the mandate of the committee is to get the facts and not the false. We are not fault finders, we are fact finders. And that if we do that, of course we'll have some recommendations that will develop a report and have that report. These are everybody is clean until you are proven wrong. So let's have that on